The WWE writing team has come up with some doozies over the years. It's a slippery slope. Get caught up in the wrong angle or gimmick, and your career can be seriously damaged. And while it might be good for your reputation around the company to do everything they come up with, sometimes it's best to let them know that something doesn't work for you, brother. I'm Senior Siete for 7 Wrestling, and let's take a look at 7 more times WWE wrestlers refuse to follow the script. Now, before we get into this, we appreciate your support, so if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and back elbow the notification bell. Also, Gordon Holmes, the fellow who does all of my Senior Siete drawings, has released a graphic novel about pro wrestling. It's called The Bad Guy from Legacy Comics. It's a heartwarming tale of wrestling and marriage. We'd love for you to support him. He's done so much to support us. You'll find a link to purchase the graphic novel in the description below. Number 1. Stone Cold Bummer. This is probably the most notorious example of someone refusing to do what they were told of all time. So let's get into it. In the summer of 2002, Steve Austin was having a rough go of it. For the first time since the Attitude Era boom, he was relegated to a mid-card match at that year's WrestleMania against Scott Hall, although, in the WWE's defense, he was offered the match with Hulk Hogan that would go on to steal the show. Austin just turned it down. He was mired in a boring feud with The Undertaker, and he had just won a match where Ric Flair would become his personal assistant? So that's something, right? But apparently the straw that broke the rattlesnake's back was when he was booked to lose a King of the Ring qualifying match to Brock Lesnar on an episode of Monday Night Raw. Fed up with what he considered subpar creative, Austin would pack up and go home. Apparently, Vince McMahon and Jim Ross did everything they could to get him back to the arena, but his mind was made up. Instead, Lesnar would qualify for the King of the Ring by defeating Bubba Ray Dudley, and later that week, Austin's life would go from bad to worse. The WWE was not shy about calling Austin out for leaving so unceremoniously, with video features and even magazine covers explaining what happened. Also, keep in mind this is 2002, WCW and ECW had just died, so there was nowhere for Austin to go. When Steve finally did tell the story, he hated the idea that they're giving away his match with Lesnar on free TV with no build-up. He didn't have a problem losing to Lesnar, as it was pretty clear at that point that they had major things planned for him. But Austin believed that he should be the last person who lost to Lesnar, not the first. Austin would be gone from the company for the rest of the year before finally patching things up and returning to the fold the following year. Number 2. They call him the Streak. The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak wasn't something that was planned out, it just kinda happened. In fact, the first time it was even really referenced was when The Undertaker held up 10 fingers after defeating Ric Flair at WrestleMania X8. The fact that it got so far is kind of amazing, considering there were quite a few times where it made sense to give The Undertaker a loss. If they were serious about having the Giant Gonzalez be a major threat, and judging by his outfit, they weren't, they could have given him the win at WrestleMania 9. Same with Kane. It seemed like they were determined to stretch this feud out, and boy did they, but it could have made sense for Kane to emerge from WrestleMania 14 victorious. There's even an argument to be made that Randy Orton could have picked up the win at WrestleMania 21, but there are rumors that him showing up late to rehearsal may have cost him that win. And Edge, at WrestleMania 24, title versus streak in the main event, that finish never seemed in doubt. The Rated R superstar had enjoyed a decent run as world champion. The storyline seemed to be building to an Undertaker win, and it was the final match of the evening, which usually they try to send the crowd home happy with a good guy victory. However, in the days leading up to the event, the pitch was made to Taker and Edge that it was time to end the streak. Undertaker was cool with it, but Edge was not. On Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast, Edge would say, "Absolutely not. Why would we do that? That makes zero sense to me. I'm already a made man. I'm in the main event of WrestleMania. What's it going to do for me? Sure, it would do something, I guess, but let's save that. Let's save that for someone who can really use that boost." Edge would get his wish with Taker getting the victory and the world title. It's just a shame that Edge didn't have that same attitude with Finn Balor's Demon a few years later. Shame. Number 3, The Dark Bride. The 1997 Slammies will probably be remembered for a few reasons, such as Rocky Maivia getting booed out of the building when he won the New Sensation Award, Superfan wetting his pants when he came face to face with The Undertaker, and while receiving an award for being the loosest screw, Mankind's manager Paul Bear would point out that the loosest screw is in fact Tammy Sunny Sitch. that's awful. Moving on. By far, the moment that was most talked about was the bikini contest because most major award shows have bikini contests, right? During this competition, Sable would let the world know that she was ready to be much more than Mark Merrow's little buddy when she came out dressed in a belt? Like literally just like a strip of cloth. As you'd imagine, this made her quite popular. So, a pitch was made by Vince Russo to take her away from the floundering Mark Merrow and pair her up with one of the hottest acts in the company, an act so popular it makes super fans wet themselves. I'm, of course, talking about The Undertaker. Now, this idea would see The Undertaker embrace a darker persona, more similar to the Ministry Undertaker we'd see a few years later, and Sable would become his gothic bride, which, wow, could you imagine seeing Sable in all black? That'd be amazing. At any rate, The Undertaker's wife, Jody Lynn, was not a fan of this idea, as you'd imagine, so it was quickly shot down. But it wouldn't matter because he'd end up with a busty blonde a few years later anyway. Oh, hey, you could. Huh. Look at that. Number 4, Game of Love. Love triangles are a staple of the entertainment business, talking about Beverly Hills 90210, talking about Casablanca, The Dark Knight, Dawson's Creek, oh, Pacey. So it makes sense that this trope is successful in professional wrestling as well, and in the early 2000s, the hottest angle in the WWE revolved around a love triangle between the King of Kings, the Billion Dollar Princess, and the guy who won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. Triple H and Kurt Angle danced around each other for months, with Triple H trying to get Kurt Angle to leave his wife alone, and by the time we got to Unforgiven 2000, the WWE Universe, or whatever they were called back then, were ready for this storyline to reach its next chapter. And if the storyline was going to continue, that meant Stephanie would probably need to leave her husband for Kurt. But Triple H didn't see it that way. He apparently told the creative team that the angle didn't make sense because a woman would never leave him for Kurt. This is awesome for a few reasons, because A, there are probably several women who would happily make this choice, and B, since when has wrestling ever had to make sense? Some would even argue that an Olympic gold medalist losing to Triple H didn't make sense. At any rate, Hunter got his way, and Kurt got a low blow from 1/3 of the triangle. Number 5, Mark Henry's Limit. Kane has got to be the guy who has turned down the least amount of storylines in his WWE career, from Katie Vick to fake Kane to corporate Kane. He seemed like he was game for anything, and a close second to that has got to be Mark Henry. The former Olympic powerlifter was really put through the ringer by WWE creative, with a popular belief being that they hoped that he'd quit due to the ridiculous scenarios they kept putting him in, all in an effort to get him out of his massive contract. Over his illustrious career, the world's strongest man allowed the Pretty Mean Sisters to turn him into a Sunday. He impregnated a septuagenarian, and they gave birth to a hand, and he even admitted to having sexual relations with his sister. Ugh. But in 2007, when they were trying to market him as a serious powerhouse wrestler, they came up with arguably the dumbest idea of them all. They wanted to refer to Mark Henry as the Silverback, as in, a silverback gorilla. They even aired a few promos where the nickname was used, and it was not a good look. Well, that was enough to finally get the powerlifter to put his giant foot down. In a Vlad TV interview, the world's strongest man would share his reaction to the ridiculous idea, saying, "You will not refer to this black man as a silverback. I am not a primate." And that was it. Oof, I really feel for the poor writing team intern they probably had take that idea to him. Number 6, a kiss is just a kiss. Someone else who's in the same boat as Kane, not literally, is Trish Stratus. The Canadian bombshell had a wide variety of crazy angles that she happily performed, including having to make out with Vince McMahon in front of his wife Linda, getting smeared with the contents of a mop bucket, and most famously, barking and crawling like a dog. Well, in 2002, the creative team wanted Trish to perform a segment with Tori Wilson where she'd crawl across the floor and then plant a kiss on Tori's lips. In John Robinson's 2015 book, WWE The Attitude Era, Stratus would say, Stephanie wanted me to crawl on Tori. I said I'd kiss her on the cheek, but Stephanie didn't think that was sexy enough. She wanted me to kiss her on the lips. I didn't feel like I was in a position to say no, so I kept saying I'd do it, but just not with the sexy kiss on the lips. That didn't go over so well, and Stacy ended up doing it instead. It was just too risque for me. I know some of you are remembering Trish kissed Lita and Mickey James on the lips and other angles, but Trish would go on to explain that those kisses made sense from a storyline perspective. And unfortunately, it seems like Trish would pay the price for speaking up. She'd go on to say, this segment was filmed on a Tuesday for SmackDown. I was the champion, so I went home, came to the next show on Monday, and I lost the title clean to Jazz. So was I punished? Who knows? I was never told why I lost, but it was a little strange that WrestleMania was in my hometown of Toronto. It was coming up, and all of a sudden, I wasn't going to be the champion. I don't know. Maybe this is just me, but I would have kissed Tori Wilson. Number 7, brotherly love. From one kiss to another, the Hardy Boys were facing tough times at the end of 2001. They had just lost a WWE WCW Tag Title Unification Cage match against the Dudley Boys at the Survivor Series because Jeff was more interested in doing a daredevil move than he was in winning the match. This could have had dire storyline consequences for the brothers because if WWE had lost the main event, all non-title holding WWE superstars would have been fired. This led to a brother versus brother match at the following pay-per-view Vengeance that really saw neither brother becoming a bad guy, but WWE tried to spice it up a bit by having Jeff kiss Matt's real-life and storyline girlfriend, Lita. However, the younger Hardy brother balked at the idea. In her autobiography, A Less Traveled Road, The Reality of Amy Dumas, Lita would say, when Jeff finally got to the building, we told him what was going on. I'm not doing that, he said. I'm not kissing my brother's girlfriend. They tried talking him into it, but he was adamant. No way, he said. I'm not doing it. They eventually relented, and all Jeff and I did was hug. The whole experience was weird and awkward. And good for them. Honestly, there's no way the WWE Universe would buy this. Lita cheating on Matt, it seems too far-fetched. Well, there's our list. Did we forget any other rejected WWE storylines? If so, please leave them in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop-kick that notification bell. Check out the description for a link to Gordon Holmes' graphic novel, The Bad Guy. Until next time, I'm Singer Siete for 7 Wrestling saying bye-bye.